Welcome to the SNF Spotlight Series, your one-stop shop to find out what's really going on in SNFs nationwide. I'm your host, Yitz Rubin, and this is sponsored by Renewal Rehab, the best therapy provider for SNFs nationwide. Thank you very much, Brian Lindsay, for joining us. You're the executive director and founding partner at the Restoracy of Whitestown, which is a 72-bed neighborhood that's super unique, just opened in July. Also a dad of 6. You guys are restoring health, dignity, legacy, and familiarity in health.
Correct.
So tell me about your progressive neighborhood model you've developed. Like, there's something special about a home, the smell of a good breakfast, cupcakes, and cookies in the oven.
One of my favorite things to do as a management team, leadership team, every day in the homes, and I will tell you one of my favorite things to see is that first 2-3 seconds in the home and the smell just overpowers you. It smells like a Denny's or breakfast kitchen, or you smell the waffles or the bacon or the coffee, and it feels and smells like you would want an environment where people need care and assistance to have those pleasures, that quality of life. And it's not a full kitchen, and we might round and there's only 2 or 3 people that are up because those are the early birds, and the rest of the people are sleeping because that's their choice. If they don't want to get up and be forced onto a dining schedule, then those people don't have to. But the kitchen, for those familiar with our model, the kitchen's kind of the center of the house. A lot of the things that we've built into the Restoracy are a common sense approach, and you've got 12 private rooms around the outside of the home and some other things built into the middle, some storage closets, laundry services, and things like that. But the kitchen and the big living room, the fireplace, hearth goes up 20 feet, just feels like a really cozy place to congregate, eat those meals. And residents make friends fast. And certainly there's a dynamic in each of the 6 homes. Each of the 6 homes has 12 individual residents. And so you can go into home number 3 or home number 6, and you're going to kind of see a different dynamic. And so it's just kind of fun to see each home take on its own identity and its own little culture.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about the neighborhood model that you've developed. It seems very unique in the industry.
It is unique. There's probably 100 to 200 throughout the country that have this type of neighborhood model. Assisted living was probably the first time that I saw this model was more of an assisted living type approach. That resonates with a lot of people, when they're looking for a place for mom or a place for dad or for themselves, trying to avoid something that maybe they saw their loved ones or their prior generations experience. And when I saw this model, this was back in 2010 that I was kind of first exposed to seeing an alternate way to provide care. And it was very rare. Very few people were doing it. And when I moved to the state of Indiana, I was only aware of 2, and then now there's a 3rd. So we're now the 4th community that has this type of approach in a neighborhood setting. We're not a franchise. We're not part of a chain. It is something that's independent, and that's intentional so that, here in Whitestown, Indiana, we have the ability to change to the needs or to modify, some of our staffing or skill set needs to this area rather than be molded into a franchise model. It does have more of a feel of independence from a structure.
So tell me about the 3 different service lines that you have.
The first one to talk about would be rehabilitation. We restore health. And so that's through rehabilitation and nursing services, getting them back on their feet. If it's in their cards, to get them back home, back to the highest level of independence. So we work with a lot of assisted living communities in the area that, because we don't offer assisted living services, we're able to take some of their residents, if they're hospitalized and then need to come for skilled services, rehab services, we can restore them back to health so they can go back home, wherever home may be. We've got 2 homes dedicated just to rehabilitation. One of the minor differences structurally from those 2 homes is they each have it's about a 30 by 20 gym. So they've got all the exercise equipment. And so that's our therapy line. Second would be our long-term care services. And, when we talk about restoring dignity, these are the type of residents that, I've talked about trying to avoid institutionalization. These are people that maybe have been in a nursing home or are coming from home and have been trying to avoid a nursing home institutional setting where they're going to be told, when and how their life's going to be lived. A big part of the dignity side of our model is that we have adequate staff in each of the homes. In our rehab home, there's a nurse and 2 aides and a cook for 12 residents. In our long-term care and our memory care homes, there's 2 aides in each home. The nurse goes back and forth between the 2 homes. You've got 7 people there for 24 residents. It's really fun on the other side. I know, in these types of conversations, so much of the focus is on the residents and their quality of life. But for a long time, and for my career, it was mostly spent in traditional long-term care settings. My heart always went out to the aides, particularly, and certainly the nurses and other staff that constantly working and always wanting to slow down, but just don't have it built into the structure to have time for relationships. And so it's so rewarding. Even today, just, rounding today, the excitement that the aides had of the fun things they were doing with the residents today, just, getting residents out of the room and having a spa day. Yesterday, when the weather was nice, just to take them for a walk around the neighborhood. I literally just getting out in the sun. In a traditional setting, an aide doesn't have time to say, hey, look, I'm going to take you for a walk for 20 minutes. And there's time to do that. And then the last service line is our memory care. And this is a really important one because memory care, they've lost their memory recognition of some things. And so to have the ability to have these residents live in a home-like environment where something as simple as just the smell of the meal brings them down to the kitchen. And so they know it's dinner time. You don't have to remind them. Like Toucan Sam, they follow their nose. They don't get lost. It's a home. It's an open environment. Everywhere they look, there's something familiar. And then, going back to the familiarity, there's consistent staffing. They've developed trust. They don't see, constant new faces. Has been a really successful approach we've discovered over the last several months.
Tell me about what you learned being an administrator, especially the first year.
I've been an administrator for about 13 years. I guess the most important thing that I learned is that taking care of seniors is the most rewarding thing I can imagine. I talked to a lot of new nurses, a lot of new aides. In healthcare, there's a lot of options out there. You can work in hospitals, ERs. There's a lot of exciting stuff out there that, if you have a passion for whatever niche that is, go for it. But I'm biased. I think to have the ability to be able to provide a service at the end of someone's life, we'll call it the pinnacle, just like everything kind of, has led to this final act. And if your physician or your health has determined that you need to be in professional care, I just found that people that need this level of care, they put a lot of trust in people that they don't know. And so throughout my career, going to care plan meetings, talking to family members, listening to staff, it was over a decade of listening to a lot of things that people didn't want and didn't like. And so when an ability came with a great investor to start this company, his name is Matt Usen, fantastic guy. We would not be doing what we're doing without his benevolence and his mission-driven mind and heart. So to have the ideas and to kind of have that gap for what I felt people were looking for and what was available in the industry was a little bit self-defeating. As an administrator, you're hired to oversee the operation to make sure everything works well. Jokingly, I would tell people, the functional title is I'm the director of making everyone happy. Family members, residents, staff, the owners of the company, the state, it all falls on the administrator. What did I learn as an administrator through my first few years? It was really just kind of gaining an understanding of what people that need this level of care were looking for and also what they weren't looking for. So I think our objective is to make the industry better than when we started.
Brian, so what do you want to do differently?
I want people to not feel like they've been institutionalized. When they are dealt the unfortunate news that they can't go home or that their spouse that they've been married to for 60 years can't take care of them, that spouse knows that they're in the best place possible. And the best place isn't just about bricks and mortar or a fancy design or a progressive model. It really comes down to the people. Take a great idea and great people. And now you've got people that are providing excellent care in a very liberating environment. We hear this so many times on tours. People, when they hear I have to go to a nursing home, they have a preconceived idea. Oh my gosh, I'm going to go to this place and I already know what it looks like. And when they drive up to the neighborhood, like, well, are we in the wrong place? Like, we're looking for a nursing home. It's rewarding to help change people's perception of what they thought they were going to have to live in.
Yes, I heard one of your nurses was featured in the USA Today. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so that was stemming from the vaccines. Like all long-term care and senior care communities are excited to move past the pandemic. Each week we continue to get good news that, we're able to lift some of these restrictions. We can have families visit more frequently or slowly, more intimately under certain criteria. If they have, whether it's their vaccination or they're submitting to a COVID screen or a COVID test, making sure that they're compliant. Just as the staff, we have to go through regular intervals of COVID screening, COVID testing. And so this nurse had volunteered at a vaccine clinic, and it just so happened that her daughter and her granddaughter were all, 3 generations of nursing, all fighting this pandemic. That's a great human interest story to have, grandma, daughter, granddaughter, through the generation, taking care of America, fighting through this, once in a century pandemic. The residents have jumped onto the vaccine wagon quite quickly. About 90% of our residents are vaccinated, which is very good.
Bryan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for your time. Thanks for the opportunity to share our story. So our website is www.therestoracy.com, and our phone number is 317-769-8888.
Thank you for sharing this tremendously important part of senior care. The SNF Spotlight Series highlights healthcare heroes and thought leaders in the skilled nursing community. We're building awareness, trust, and shining the light on SNFs. So stay tuned. Remember to like, comment, and share.